Okay, thanks for sticking with me there. So that's our vertex. Let's graph it. I've got my y-axis here. I've got my, I'm going to scooch my y-axis over because my vertex is at +3, so I want to be able to allow room for that quadratic to do its thing. So I'm going to put this y-axis here. I'm going to put my x-axis down here. So I can just automatically plot 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Perfect. I'm going to label it because it tells me to. And I'm a good math student. Now, we're going to practice what we learned about last time, about how this -1 then determines all of your transformations of the vertical movement of all of your points, right? And so if we kind of shift our focus and remember that normally we're at 0, 0, and then we go 1, 1, -1, 1, 2, 4, -2, 4 to find those next points. Now we're not going to change the horizontal movement, but we are going to change the vertical movement. The vertical movement in this case is -1, which means we're going to multiply all of our vertical movements by -1. So we're just going to flip them. So kind of rearranging, kind of thinking of this as our new x and y axis, we would normally go 1, 1, but now we're going to go 1, -1. The horizontal movement stays the same, but the vertical movement is multiplied by -1. So that would be the next set of points. And we know that it's reflected over our axis of symmetry, which is right here. And so those are some more points. This would be 4, 8, and 2, 8. Then we know instead of going 2, 4, we would go 2, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, because we've just multiplied that vertical movement of 4 by -1, making it into -4. And then if I knew that I was going to do 3, 9, right? 3 squared is 9. So normally our next point would have been 3, 9, -3, 9. So instead of doing 3, 9, I would do 3, and then I would subtract 9 down, right? I'm doing 3, -9. 1, 2, 3, down, -9. And those would be the next points. So you're taking this idea of like, I know how the normal quadratic behaves, and I'm just flipping it across. It's a nice, quick, easy way to do it. It's how a lot of people who know enough about quadratics do it in order to quickly graph. It says we want to label 5 key points. It says we want to include all intercepts. So I'm not going to label these guys, but I will label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This guy, this guy. Okay. And I should probably also connect the dots here and graph it. All right, there we go. Next one. So looking at this guy, we want to know what our vertex is. I want you to go ahead and take a stab at finding out what that vertex is on your own. We know that our vertex is going to be -b over 2a. So that's going to be -4 over 2 times 1. So that's going to be -2 for our x value. And then I could plug -2 in for here, or I could do c minus b squared over 4a. I think it's easier to just think about this as -2. So that would be 4 minus 8, which is -4, minus 4 is another -8. If that didn't make sense, just plug in -2 and you'll see it. So that is the vertex. So now I'm going to graph this. I'm going to put my y-axis about right here because I know that I'm going to be -2, so I'm going to be kind of a little bit shifted to the side. -8 means I'm really way the heck down there. So I'm going to put my x-axis up here to be able to account for movement. So then -2, 6, 8. And then a is 1, which means I'm just multiplying all of what would have been my vertical movements by 1, which means what I'm really doing is keeping that vertical movement. So I would go 1, 1, back 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, back 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I would go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And this is what our graph looks like. So we can label a few points here. We've got our vertex, which is -2, -8. We found the y-intercept, which is 0, -4, which means this guy would be -4, -4. And then I would like to label these x-intercepts, but we don't have them, which means that we need to find them. So if it tells us that we need to label our x-intercepts, that means that we need to calculate it and not just say, hey, those are the x-intercepts. We need to actually say, what is the value that is the x-intercept? Now, there's lots of ways that you could do this. You could complete the square on this guy. Or you could use your quadratic formula. Either way, this is what your whole last unit was about, so you're supposed to be experts on that now. If you need a refresher, you've got all of your notes in front of you. I want you to tell me what your x-intercepts are. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the square because I honestly find it faster because I can do it quickly. So x squared plus 4x plus 4 minus 4 minus 4. This guy halved squared is 4. So then this becomes x plus 2 squared minus 4 becomes -8. That's where our -2, -8 comes from. And then we know that finding our x-intercepts, we have to set it equal to 0. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Take the square root of both sides. And then we're going to subtract 2. I think it's faster than the quadratic formula. Taking the square root, adding and subtracting, we end up getting about, to 2 decimal places, 0.45 and -4.45. So those are our values. And we can look at what we graphed, and that looks about right. This is 0.45, 0, and then this is -4.45, 0. So those are those values there. Okay, so let's continue to practice this. We have one more to go. We have some crazy numbers here, and I want to find the vertex. I don't want to complete the square here to turn it into vertex form. So instead, I'm going to rely on my vertex formula, which says, hey, always and forever, my vertex is going to be equal to -b over 2a. Go ahead and tell me what the entire vertex is here. It ends up working pretty nicely that your x value is -10. Plugging that back in, you then get a value of -5. And looking at this, you would not expect it to work out really nicely, but it does. So then going ahead and graphing this, here are some thoughts. That I'm at -10, -5, and also my slope is negative, which means that I'm already starting with a vertex in this quadrant, in the third quadrant. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I know that I'm in the third quadrant of my graph because I'm starting out with a negative number, and this is the quadrant where both of your numbers, your x and y values, are negative, and I have a -a value, which means that my parabola opens down, which means I'm only really staying in this section. So I'm going to go ahead and create my axes such that I stay only in that section. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. Also, -10, -5 is already putting me like here. And so it's going to make it hard for me to show all the points that I want to. So I'm going to actually go by 2's. -2, -4, -6, -8, -10, -12, -14, -16, -18, -20, and same with this guy, -2, -4, -6, -8, and you get the picture. I'm labeling it because I think it can be sometimes hard to keep track of. I would recommend that you also label it. I know it seems like extra sometimes, but it helps when you actually start interacting with the graph to be able to remind yourself that these are actually worth 2 and not 1.